Welcome to FactNexus, where we uncover the darkest stories that will leave you stunned. Today we dive into 4 shocking cases of teenage killers. First, 14-year-old Aiden Fucci, who brutally stabbed his classmate 114 times, then took selfies in a police car like it was nothing. Next, Mackenzie Sherilla, 17, who calmly drove her car into a building, killing her boyfriend and his friend in a premeditated act of murder. Then, Willard Miller and Jeremy Goodell, who over a bad grade, plotted and murdered their Spanish teacher with a baseball bat. Finally, Rachel Shoaf and Sheila Eddy, best friends who turned on their friend Skyler, killing her just because they didn't like her anymore. These are stories of betrayal, violence, and the chilling side of human nature. Let's start our video. Fucci, just 14 years old, lured his 13-year-old classmate into the woods and stabbed her 114 times. A vicious act that left the community reeling. Surveillance footage captured the pair walking together before the attack, and just 90 minutes later, Fucci was seen running from the scene. After his arrest, Fucci shockingly took selfies in the back of a police car, showing a chilling lack of remorse. The brutality of the crime is hard to comprehend. 114 stab wounds, including 49 defensive wounds, as the young girl desperately tried to fight for her life. Fucci eventually pled guilty to first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison. Due to his age, he'll have a chance for a sentence review in 25 years. This tragic tale serves as a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk even in the youngest among us.
That Snapchat that you did, those numbers,
like it's all over, you're all over the internet network. This is seriously.
It's very serious.
This is no joke. This is your whole life. Your whole life.
And ours.
And ours.
We're having fun in a cop car.
Yep.
114 stab wounds, 49 defensive wounds, 35 wounds to the head and neck, 29 to the back and shoulder, and 6 fatal wounds. Having entered a plea of guilty to the crime of first-degree murder, I sentence you to life in prison. Because of your age, you are eligible for review of the sentence in 25 years.
2 16-year-old boys whose resentment towards their high school Spanish teacher, Nohema Graber, led to a brutal and senseless murder. It all began when Miller received a bad grade from Mrs. Graber, a dedicated teacher at Fairfield High School in southeastern Iowa. Instead of accepting the grade, Miller and his friend Goodell plotted a horrific revenge. The plan was cold and calculated. They knew Mrs. Graber's routine. She often took a walk at Shadow Walker's City Park. On that fateful day, the boys stalked her, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. As she walked unsuspectingly, they ambushed her, dragging her into the woods, where they beat her to death with a baseball bat. What's even more chilling is the casual way they discussed their crime on Snapchat. With one message reading, "Point of view, you're my Spanish teacher, and this is the last thing you see." The arrogance and lack of remorse were shocking, but it wasn't long before the law caught up with them. A witness, who knew Goodell, shared these Snapchat messages with the authorities, sealing the boys' fate. In court, both boys faced the consequences of their actions. Goodell, who pled guilty to first-degree murder, expressed his regret, saying,
"I've had time to think on what to say, and I'm sorry, truly sorry. Every day I wish I could go back and stop myself. I can't comprehend losing a loved one in such an awful way."
Understood that he had the intent to kill Mrs. Graber.
What is your plea to murder in the first degree, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty. We then moved her off of the trail, where I then struck her, and she died as a result.
We discussed a general plan. I'll stand up here, look out, wait for Ms. Graber to show up.
What was the plan after that?
There wasn't really a plan beyond that.
Like hide the body, bury the body, save the body?
At that time, we were going to hide the body. I guess in our arrogance, we kind of assumed that nobody would ever find her. Here she comes, and she walked by and hit her in the back of the head. And then I said, "Holy shit, make sure she's dead." So we hit her a couple more times.
I'd like to take this opportunity to wholeheartedly accept responsibility for the role that I've played in the murder of Nohema Graber. To the family, I'm sincerely sorry for the distress that I've caused you and the devastation, and I ask that I'm given a chance, and I don't want to be institutionalized. I don't want to be in so long that I forget about what matters, where I come from, and I look forward to getting through this.
The defendant, Willard Noble Chayton Miller, should be sentenced to life with the possibility of parole after 35 years. The defendants shall be sentenced to life with the possibility of parole after 25 years.
I never really had anywhere to go on lunch just because I didn't have a car then. So she let me sit with her in like the back of the room, and she would just tell me stories.
Skyler Niece, also 16, lived in Star City, West Virginia, and was close friends with Rachel and Sheila. The three girls had shared countless memories, but beneath the surface, something sinister was brewing. Rachel and Sheila had grown tired of Skyler, and instead of simply ending their friendship, they devised a cold-blooded plan to kill her. On a fateful night, the two girls lured Skyler into a secluded area under the pretense of a late-night hangout. Unbeknownst to Skyler, Rachel and Sheila had hidden knives on their bodies, waiting for the right moment to strike. When the time came, they viciously attacked Skyler, stabbing her multiple times until she was dead. The brutal nature of the crime shocked the small town of Star City, leaving everyone wondering how such a heinous act could be committed by two seemingly ordinary teenage girls. Rachel Shoaf eventually cracked under the weight of her guilt, confessing to the crime and leading investigators to Skyler's body. Both Rachel and Sheila were arrested and faced the consequences of their actions in court. Rachel, in a tearful apology, expressed deep remorse for what she had done, acknowledging the pain she had caused Skyler's family and her own.
Their scheme was to hide knives on their bodies and to attack Skyler at an agreed-upon moment. Sheila Eddy and Rachel Shoaf carried out that plan. Together they stabbed and killed Skyler.
I'm so sorry. I don't know if there's a proper way to make this apology because there are not even words to describe the guilt and remorse that I feel each day for what I've done. I hurt the Niece family and those who love Skyler. I hurt my parents and shamed my family. May God bring eternal peace to Skyler and the entire Niece family.
It's a sentence of the court that you've been imprisoned in the West Virginia State Penitentiary for the rest of your natural life. That sentence is technically with mercy, which makes you eligible for parole after you have served 15 years. Rachel Shoaf, it is a sentence of the court that you be imprisoned in the West Virginia State Penitentiary for a period of 30 years.
The tragic story of Dominic Russo, a life cut short. Dominic Russo was a 20-year-old with a bright future ahead of him. Born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, Dominic was known for his infectious smile, his passion for sports, and his love for his family and friends. He had a tight-knit circle, and his charisma made him a natural leader among his peers. Dominic's life was full of promise. He was just starting to carve out his path in the world. But everything changed on a fateful day, when he climbed into the passenger seat of his girlfriend's car. What began as an ordinary drive soon turned into a nightmare. Little did Dominic know, the girl he trusted was about to commit an unthinkable act. Mackenzie Sherilla, Dominic's 17-year-old girlfriend, had been harboring dark thoughts. Their relationship had grown toxic, filled with tension and threats. Mackenzie had made violent promises before, but no one could have predicted what she was about to do. On that day, she made a chilling decision. Death was her ultimate goal. As they drove through the streets outside Cleveland, Mackenzie remained eerily calm. But when she reached a certain point, she pressed the accelerator, speeding up to 100 miles per hour. In an instant, the car veered off the road and crashed violently into the side of a commercial building. Dominic Russo and his friend, Davian Flanagan, were both killed on impact. Mackenzie, however, survived. The aftermath of the crash was devastating. Dominic's family and friends were left in shock, struggling to comprehend the senseless loss of such a beloved young man. Prosecutors would later reveal that Mackenzie had meticulously planned the crash, even driving the same route days earlier to plot her crime. Her intent was clear. She wanted to kill Dominic, and Davian was merely collateral damage. As the court proceedings unfolded, the truth became undeniable. The video evidence showed Mackenzie driving with chilling precision, making deliberate moves that led to the fatal collision. The judge's verdict was swift. Mackenzie Sherilla was guilty of murder. Dominic Russo's life was tragically cut short, leaving a void that could never be filled. His story serves as a haunting reminder of how quickly life can change, and how love, when twisted by darkness, can lead to unimaginable outcomes.
Mackenzie decided death was the ultimate goal that day. This was not reckless driving. This was murder.
Threatened his property. She threatened to break into his house.
You see her driving very calmly and making the right turn, and then all evidence indicates she immediately put the pedal to the metal and drove straight into a building at 100 miles per hour. I think those really demonstrated to us that this was no accident.
Finds the defendant, Mackenzie Sherilla, guilty of murder. To wit, Dominic Russo. Count 2. Finds the defendant, Mackenzie Sherilla, guilty of murder. To wit, Davion Flake.
Families of Dom and Davion, I'm so deeply sorry. I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. I wish I could remember what happened. I'm just so sorry. I'm heartbroken.
There was no medical condition that caused this as an accident. There was no mechanical failure of the car. A failed suicide attempt is not a defense to murder. There's a very good likelihood, Mackenzie, that you will spend the rest of your life in prison. She's sentenced on count 1, 15 years to life. Count 2, 15 years to life, to be served concurrent to each other.